All right. Is this working? Is the question. What is up, everybody? I might have inadvertently kicked everybody off that was on the Zoom call here. I was trying to get the live stream service up and running, and I started the meeting before I entered the information, and now I had to go back and restart the meeting, and anybody that was on there is no longer there at this point. So let me paste the Zoom link in the chat here. So if you want to, if you're on Facebook Live and want to jump on the Zoom call, you can still do that. All right, here we go. I was just having a conversation this morning with somebody saying technology is hard. What's going on, Morgan? How you doing? There's the Zoom link there. If you guys want to hop on the Zoom call, you are more than welcome to, or you're welcome to lurk on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever else this is being broadcast to. What are you guys working on today? Let's see, there's a number of people online and watching now. We got a few deals that we're trying to move at the moment. Got a sub-2 deal down in Longview, 15K down payment. The numbers on it look pretty good if you're keeping it as a buy and hold. Definitely won't work as a flip. We have a number of people looking at it as a flip, and numbers are just too tight. And so that's why I think sub-2 is going to be the better route for people that are looking at this deal. Hey, Morgan, what's going on? See, you were able to make it on the Zoom call here. So then we got a few other deals in the pipeline that we're working on right now. Got one down in Tacoma that the numbers actually look pretty good on. So I'm hopefully going to be getting pictures of that one before the end of the week, and hopefully we'll be able to blast it out by next week. Interesting story on that one. It's an investor that has bought just a ton of bank-owned or foreclosure properties, and he's wanting to just unload some of them. This one's got a problem tenant in it. Not paying rent, but they're also not willing to leave until they get evicted. So, but apparently they're being friendly with letting people go through and take a look at stuff. So that's the interesting thing about this one. So not being completely uncooperative. So got that in the pipeline. Got some another sub-2 deal that is in the works right now. It's a pre-foreclosure. There's really very little equity in it. It doesn't need a ton of work, but definitely won't work as a cash deal. So we're in the process of trying to get the numbers from the seller as far as their mortgage information on what they have currently outstanding exactly, and then the terms on the mortgage, how much time is remaining, interest rate, and all that sort of stuff, to see if we can make something make something work here. But so that one's in Aberdeen. I feel like that one's going to be a good deal as a rental, because I think the cash flow on that's going to be pretty good, assuming based on the pictures that we saw at this point that it isn't going to need much work on it. So we'll see what we're able to come up with on that one. We're under a bit of a tight timeline. The auction on that's supposed to be next month. So, and the seller, even though given the tight timeline, they haven't been very responsive on getting us information. So it's not like they have it seems like a sense of urgency to try to make something happen here to avoid this foreclosure. So we'll see what happens. And then I got my own burr project moving along right now in Atlanta. This is a fourplex deal that I picked up a couple months ago, and it's been dragging on, going a bit slower than I was hoping. And we're about 2 months in at this point, and just have started the demo work and working on getting the permits on it. And lo and behold, there's an issue with the sewer line. And so I'm working on getting quotes on what it's going to take to possibly replace that. The first quote I got was $9,000. So we'll see. There's roots growing in it, and so it's going to need to be dug up and a new one put in. So I've got 2 more quotes coming in, and we'll see how much lower I can get that. I did budget about another $15K on that deal for unforeseen things, but thing I'm a little uneasy about is we're just getting started, and it's already $9K into that potentially buffer that I had set aside for it. So the good thing on this one is there's a ton of equity in it, assuming we stay somewhat on budget on the rehab. It's about 100K rehab on it. The purchase price was 175, and got an appraisal for 410 as far as the ARV goes. So once it's all rented up, it should be bringing in about $3,500 to $4,000 a month pretty comfortably. So, and then also the good thing is I got 2 tenants in there right now in the top units, which are in decent shape. So I'm offsetting my hard money loan payment partially for the next few months. So that will help a bit there as well. So what are you working on, Morgan? I see you popping in the dialing for dollars calls, which I'll probably do. I wasn't able to do it this morning, but I'll get on the calls later on this afternoon and hit up some more agents and see if I can find some deals. I got a deal yesterday from an agent. It's on market, and they're wanting ARV is like 500 on it, and they're asking for 400. And I looked at the pictures, and I'll just have to give the agent some feedback on why 400 is probably not going to work. It's probably going to need to be in the low 300s in order to work, but it's been sitting on the market there for 30 days at this point. And I think the buyer that they're looking for is probably somebody that's going to live in the property once it's fixed up. So I feel like that's what a lot of these buyers are looking for, or these sellers are looking for, are deals where they can get somebody in there after the fact, and then maybe they have a little bit of equity when all is said and done. So you got your day job going on today, Morgan, and then calling expireds later on. Awesome. How has the expired listing leads been for you? So I actually got 3 sub-2 deals through expired listings. They were low equity, been sitting on the market for a year and unable to sell because seller couldn't drop the price anymore because they didn't have any cash to bring to closing in order to satisfy the mortgage. And so, we had called them up after their listings had expired, and all 3 were open to selling just for what they owed on it. And so I was able to lock those deals up for basically just paying the closing costs on them. So 3 properties in Oklahoma for basically $10,000 out of pocket, and probably worth about 500,000 total. Turned around and sold them either on lease options or owner finance, did no work on them, and then just had the end buyer do the work to fix it up. So that was the pretty amazing thing is I literally did nothing with these properties. One of them I bought for 55K is what they owed on it. And the next day I just turned around and listed on Facebook Marketplace at 90K with seller financing. And probably had like 300 inquiries on that deal. It was crazy. It was in a vacation spot. Needed a lot of work though. I mean, had water damage, the floors were all messed up, had mold growing in it, and ended up getting somebody to buy it initially on a lease option. They did that for a year, and then they just bought it on owner financing from me. So they did about a 10K down payments and payments of about 900 a month on the mortgage, and my outgoing mortgage payments on the underlying mortgage are about 550. So there was decent cash flow there. I wasn't responsible for any of the maintenance or anything like that. And so like this was better than a wholesale deal in that, I got paid a down payment up front, and now I'm getting monthly cash flow. And then there's the difference between what the seller owes the bank and what the end buyer owes me. So there's another like 30 or 40K in equity there between those 2 mortgages. So if they decide to sell the property or refinance it at some point, then that equity is going to get cashed out and realize a gain there as well. So these deals end up working out way better than wholesale deals because you end up getting paid 3 times on them. Down payment up front, you get monthly cash flow, and then when they refi or sell, you get cashed out again with the equity that you have between the notes. So if they don't sell or refi, what happens is that underlying mortgage gets paid off that the seller had, and then the cash flow goes way up. So as soon as this loan to Bank of Oklahoma gets paid off, and they still got like 20 years remaining on it, but when it gets paid off in 20 years, then the cash flow goes from, whatever it's at right now, $400 a month to $900 a month. So that's why I really like sub-2 deals. So, but the downside is they're just a pain in the ass to manage. You just need to be very, very careful with insurance with it, because the underlying lender wants to make sure that their borrower is still listed on the insurance policy. And so you need to be in constant communication. Well, maybe not constant, but you need to maintain contact with the seller and the end buyer as long as you're holding this property, because at times you might need to go get them to, have to do something with the insurance policy, or the seller reached out to me and needed documentation from me because they were trying to get another mortgage, and this other mortgage on the property that they sold, was still showing up on their credit. So I needed to provide documentation that I was the one that was actually making payments on the mortgage on their behalf. So it didn't count towards their DTI. So sub-2 deals can be pretty lucrative, pretty juicy. but there's some complexities there that aren't present in just plain vanilla short-term or long-term rentals. So just something to watch out for, but it's always a good pitch to those expired listings. If one of the reasons that their property couldn't sell was because of because it was low equity. And I know there's wholesalers that will specifically avoid low equity, going after low equity leads, but you can still make money off of those as well. You just got to be a little bit creative about how you structure those deals. So Morgan's asking, did you pre-sign a limited power of attorney from the original seller? Yeah. So in order to be able to purchase the house sub 2, you need to get a limited power of attorney from them, because their lender is not going to talk to you because you're not an authorized user on their account. So basically, the power of attorney gives you authorization to talk to the lender on their behalf and get any changes that you need to make to the account in order to be able to pay that mortgage for them. So to be able to get the insurance updated with them, to be able to get access to the online payment portal, to update the mailing address so you're getting the statements and the tax documents at the end of the year, and whatever else you might need to do in order to communicate with the seller. You're going to need a power of attorney in order to be able to do that. So once you have the power of attorney, then you send it to the lender, they have it on file, and then whenever you call them, I still have to go through a process. It takes, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes for them to figure out who I am. And I don't know how they know I'm who I say I am. This is the thing that's kind of weird. Like I'll tell them who my name, right, and what company I'm with, and so that must be good enough proof for them that I'm allowed to talk to them about the borrower's account. But it just seems a little strange that they don't do any other authentication other than asking for my name and company name that's on the power of an attorney. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with an issue right now where the seller's insurance, so they got a new policy, and then the seller didn't the buyer didn't include the seller on the policy. And so it got sent to the lender, who was Wells Fargo in this case, or Freedom Mortgage actually. And Freedom Mortgage said, "Oh, we're not going to accept this policy because it doesn't have the seller's or the borrower's name on it." So, and I hadn't been like checking my mail consistently, so I didn't notice that this happened. And so after about a month or so, the lender said, "Okay, well, since this insurance policy isn't valid, we're going to put force place insurance on it." Well, that's when the lender buys the insurance for you, and then they just charge you out of the escrow account for it, because they don't want their property to, they don't want your property to burn down. And then if they had to foreclose on it, it's not worth anything, right? So they want to make sure that property is insured. So I got a nasty surprise when I opened up my mortgage statement, a couple months later, and I saw my payment had gone up like $400 a month on it. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then I saw there was another charge for insurance for, almost $3,000, because force place insurance isn't cheap. And so I had to call the bank, find out what was going on. And they said, "Well, you don't have valid insurance on file." And I said, "Well, we sent the evidence of insurance in." And then, so somebody had to go look up what was going on with that. And they said, "Oh, it's not valid because the borrower isn't on the policy anywhere." So even though the house has been sold, they want their borrower to be listed as an additional insured on the policy. So, yeah, so this is like an area of complexity where, you don't have to deal with this on regular rentals. So in that case, I had to get in contact with the buyer's insurance agent and walk them through exactly how the mortgagee, the insured and the additional insured all needed to show up in a very specific way on the policy in order for the lender to be okay with it. So once that happened, I was able to take that evidence of insurance, send it back to the lender. They said, okay, everything looks good at this point. We'll go ahead and cancel the force-placed insurance, and then we'll give you a refund for the for that charge. Now, like, this is the other fun part. Then they issue a check. They issue a check for the escrow refund, right? Because they charged for this insurance and now they gave a refund, and so they're going to send me a check. So on a sub 2 deal, the check is made out to the borrowers, right? So they send me the check, it's made out to the borrowers, and I got to sign the check, you know, on behalf of the borrowers, power of attorney, blah, 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 blah. I sign that on the check. And what I have learned is that most banks, at least for the online banking, I don't know, maybe if you go into a branch with the actual power of attorney document, it's a different story. But most banks will not accept a mobile deposit unless the name is exactly your name on the account that you're depositing it to. And so my problem is I bank with NBKC, which doesn't have any branches around here in Seattle. And so mobile deposit is the only option. And so they're telling me you can't deposit it if your name isn't on the check. If it's somebody else's name, we're not going to let you deposit it. Even if you're signing it by power of attorney, you know, it's not going to work. So what I learned though is Chase seems to not have any issues with the mobile deposits. So I basically, you know, sign these checks as myself by power of attorney, deposit it into my personal Chase checking accounts, and then I have to transfer it to my NBKC business checking account. So I find it very interesting that, and I had another bank, Aslo was another online bank that I used when that was still around, and they wouldn't take mobile deposits unless the names matched exactly either, which seems to make sense, right? The bank isn't going to want that risk, but it's also interesting that Chase doesn't really seem to have any issue as to whose name is on the check. And the other interesting thing is they've like never asked to verify the power of attorney that I have over this account. So it's a very, very interesting process, and at times a bit cumbersome, depending on what's going on with it. So, hey, Jason, what's going on? I see you hopped on the call.
Man, I keep forgetting that these things are at 11, not 12. I've been doing that like the last 3 weeks. I swear these things used to be at 12.
Yeah, no, I want to be eating lunch at 12.
Gotcha.
So how are your calls going?
Not too well. I haven't really made it. I've been busy doing a lot of other things that are taking up a lot of my time, and classes and Zooms and all kinds of stuff. So everything else has been on the back burner, at least for a couple more days. So I'll probably hop on a Friday and Saturday.
You got anything interesting that you're learning about?
No, man, I'm just really focusing on this 502 and try to get a retail license in that.
Focusing on the what?
502.
What's 502?
Marijuana industry.
Oh, so are you shifting?
No, I'm not shifting, but you know, there's enough of a reward for me to put some time into it right now. So
yeah.
That's
So do you have any did you have any warm leads that you were at least previously working on in your pipeline, or is everything pretty cold at this point from that batch that you just got?
No, the batch is old anyways, but no, I mean, besides what I have locally, not really. Like I've been trying to work this lady that has property next to my house, and it's been taken over by transients, and they come to my neighborhood, steal people's boats. I mean, motors off their boats and shit. So I don't know. I really just kind of want to make a play and find somebody to invest to take this over and get a nice little chunk of change off that. But otherwise than that, I mean, I have a
Cash
couple.
deal?
Huh?
It's like a cash deal, or what's the
No, I
strategy on that?
mean, they're so the husband died and left it to his wife, and they have a bunch of kids and stuff. So I went there last year, trying to sell it for him because I've just neighborhood's been ransacked with just people that live over there coming through my neighborhood and stealing and shit at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That's why I don't go to bed till like 5 a.m. and I'm up at 7. So that's yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just something on my list, and I don't know. I think I need to just I don't know. They weren't really that receptive of it. But it's just run down. It's just a waste to see the property go that way in the first place. I mean, the house is salvageable. I mean, yeah, but I mean, there's a commercial building on the property as well. Because it's one of those one-offs, like a house and there's a commercial building. It's like all this land, and you could do so much with the land. And it's like, what are you guys doing here? And then when I go to the house, see where they live, I see where they're living. Like, what's up with you guys? Like it's like a duplex that they own as well, and it's just all ran down and shingle siding boards just everywhere. Just like I don't know, man. I don't get people sometimes.
So what's their plans? Like, where are they moving to? Like,
No, they don't know.
where?
This place has been abandoned. The place that's
Oh,
actually yeah, it's abandoned.
so they definitely have motivation then.
No, they have zero motivation. When we had a couple iterations and things together, and then it was said, well, we have realtors in the family who, if we want to sell it, I was like, well, why don't you guys want to sell it? Because people that are on your property are becoming a menace to me. So what are you trying to do right now?
Yeah. What's their plan?
They don't really have a plan.
Hmm.
And if they did, I couldn't get it out of them. So that was about 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm figuring when I'm gonna drop all the next.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it won't hurt to follow up with them periodically, right? So I mean, obviously the last time you talked to them, they're obviously not that motivated, right?
Well, it's the mother's fine. It's just the kids. I was like, I don't know why you guys are, coming down on me. I'm trying to get y'all paid.
Are they so who actually owns the property? Is it the mom?
The mom, but then I believe she gave it to her son. I think when she wanted me to meet him, he's like in a wheelchair. Like there's just something going on with him. He lived next door. They live in a duplex. But I was like, and she's like, well, he's not really feeling too good at the time. This is during COVID as well. So I was like, no, it's not during COVID. This is last year. But yeah, and I was like, no, I really don't want to see him. I just, want to talk to her. And then she kind of just put it out to her kids. And it's like, she was all with it, but the kids weren't really with it. So, it's trying to bridge those two gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I'm just imprinting that they need to sell. And they feel that they don't need to sell. But I mean, what's the point of having property if you're not going to sell it? Because you don't have any money to develop it. Because if you did have money, you'd be living the way that you're living right now. So, I mean, what's your goal with this?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, and I'm sure they got holding costs associated with it as well,
Yeah,
right?
they do. Yeah.
Even if they don't have a mortgage, they
Yeah, the
still have
taxes
to
are
pay.
like, I think last time I checked, they're like 2 or 6 grand, somewhere right around there.
Yeah, so they still have property taxes and insurance, and there could be other
I don't think
costs.
there's going to be any insurance because I mean they own it free and clear, so they've had it for forever.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess if they don't care if it gets.
Yeah. Well, no. Then I went over to go take pictures and stuff and like that, and then I met the dude that lived there because I was pulling in, he was pulling out. And this guy's like, "Yeah, you want to come inside?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, you ain't gonna trick me like that, dog."
No, there's somebody living there.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, he knows the family too." I was like, "Well, tell so and so I said hi." I'm like, "Okay." So yeah, it's just a culmination of things, man. So I don't know. I'll probably reach out to her probably tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing things on Tuesdays and Thursdays when it comes to outreach for things that aren't on my normal schedule. People are a
Mhm.
little bit more receptive,
Mhm.
and it's on Friday. So, but when you're elderly, none of that stuff really matters, I guess. But I guess at least for me, I
Right.
need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other
Well,
than that, man, I mean, times are tough, man. Pockets are dry. About to have to go work for Rob here and be in the acquisitions board, man. Gonna need that salary though, but it'll get done.
yeah. No, it's been things are definitely slower than they were. Gosh, first half of last year was crazy. And then things just like hit a wall in July. I mean, we had 30 deals. We didn't sell a single one of them in July. It was crazy.
Really?
Yeah. So, but retail market is like picking up in a big way right now. Like inventory is down to where it was at the beginning of last summer. And I'm hearing more about multiple offers on retail properties. So prices are starting to go up in some areas as well. So I think retail buyers are starting to get FOMO in that, all the people that were waiting for interest rates to come down. So
they're not coming down, they're going back up. I mean, they're gonna go up in June, but
they're going back up,
I
but
told you this is gonna happen, Rob.
yeah,
It's sunny out. People want to buy houses now. It's the juice, man.
yeah. But prices are starting to go up now too. And so these
I
people
know they are. Yeah.
like, well, all this money I thought I was going to save by waiting for interest rates to go down. Now prices are up like 5%
No.
off their lows. And, now it's going to cost me even more. So now people are trying to jump on, that had been waiting or trying to jump in and get something locked up. And
Yeah.
there's a lot available, right?
You're
So
gonna start taking on some fix and flips again, bro. I mean,
yeah,
you
I
should.
know.
I'd imagine you probably already start looking for something to maybe take on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good time because then you got the, summer coming up and inventory is probably going to stay tight unless interest rates go a lot higher. And
I think that we're gonna get another 50 or 75 basis points here, and I think in the next 60 days. So I don't see the interest rates coming down anytime in the next year and a half. If they do come down, it's not going to come down more than probably a point and a half, probably at most.
yeah, well, so the question is though, is with the stuff that's going on with the banks right now and their balance sheets
Well, I mean,
underwater.
the banks and everything else is them, and their failed to delivers and swapping and swaps. So, I mean, I don't want to sound like that guy, but I mean, it's all tied to, Bed Bath & Beyond, AMC, GME, and then all those tokenized, and then tokenizing those stocks as well. So then you're creating quadruplicates of fake stocks. So I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with the balance sheets, like at Silicon Valley Bank and then Credit Suisse, was just bought out over the weekend by UBS.
Yeah, well, Chris was another one of those that was facilitating those swaps.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
so but they're also like holding all these bonds, they got their depositors' money, then they turned around and bought all these bonds, which have gone down in value since interest rates have gone up, and now they can't meet their depositors' demands when they want to withdraw their money because their balance sheet is underwater. So
well, that's because they changed the. I want to say Trump changed the liquidity demand for banks to have, and they don't really have to have liquidity to go ahead and do business outside of taking deposits and doing normal banking things. I think that changed.
yeah, that changed after Dodd-Frank. So like after the last housing crisis, they kind of changed how banks need to account for their deposits and their bond holdings, whether or not they need to mark them to market, or they can just value them at what they'd be valued at maturity. And so that maybe has helped a lot of banks from having to from not blowing up. But at the same time, there's a lot of banks right now that are in the same situation as Silicon Valley and Credit Suisse. So if the Fed were to keep pushing up interest rates, that's going to continue to devalue their bond holdings. And, you know,
I mean,
then
they're
the
all
question is, there's going to be a huge mess to clean up.
complicit of everything that's going on. Just because Credit Suisse is one that is, defaulting and needs to sell, they're all complicit in it. They all know exactly what they're doing. They're all doing it. It's just crazy that that they tell you that you have bad credit when they all default.
Right.
It's crazy. It's really just the kettle calling the pot black.
Right. Well, I mean, they can borrow from like the central banks, so they're.
I'm just tired of them getting bailed out. Let them fall, just like they let us fall.
Yeah, well, I guess the problem then is like, is that contagion going to spread to other sectors? So if Silicon Valley Bank failed completely, and 90 something percent of their depositors were not insured because they had more than 250K in their accounts there, you got all these startups basically then that are not able to pay their employees because their money just disappeared. So multiply that by, if you let that bank fail, and then people get worried about, is the money in their bank safe? And they start pulling it out, like what sort of domino effect then does that have on the economy if people are worried about their money's being safe in the bank, so they take it out and other banks fail, and then so businesses can't pay their employees, and I don't know, it has the potential to be super messy unless they figure out a way to assure people that their money is going to be.
I mean, it's either that. I mean, then save them, but everybody that was in the higher ups there cannot work in banking anymore because obviously your leadership led there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is like,
there should be accountability.
Yeah, do you punish the executives at the bank for?
Well, of course you do. Who the people that open accounts there have nothing to do with that.
Right. So, but I don't see that happening.
No,
it's going to happen. So
capital rules the world over here. So.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to hop off here. Jump on another call, and then I'll be calling some agents probably later on this afternoon, so I'll be back on Facebook a little bit later today.
Cool, man. Thanks, Rob.
All right, Rob.
All right, I'll catch you later. See ya.